What's up, y'all? It's your boy Rick, aka the People's Barber, International Wahl Educator. So we're here to talk about the WahlBarberBattle.com. Last year was a great success, and we're looking forward to doing another one this year. Our contest begins on Friday, June 1st. Make sure to mark your calendars for Friday, June 1st. But in the meantime, find your models, make sure to start prepping them, getting them ready for when you're gonna film. Contest is gonna end June 29th. That's also a Friday. June 29th, we're no longer gonna be taking any more submissions. So make sure to sign up to be a Wahl brand ambassador to be eligible for this contest. Also, make sure to check your state eligibility. Unfortunately, some states do not allow contests. So make sure to check your state eligibility and the website, WahlBarberBattle.com, for more information. For everyone competing, this year we're changing things up a bit. You are required to do a bald fade. You are required to do a creative cut. Now, on your third option of haircut, it's your choice and your option. We're giving you the option to do a pompadour or a crop top cut. We highly encourage you to talk your steps through the video. Make sure to explain what you're doing, guys. We want to know that you know what you're doing and why you're doing it. Make sure to explain your steps. Once again, guys, we're a clipper company, the best clipper company in the world. We don't want to see no shears in these videos. Make sure that your models and yourself do not wear any clothing with sports teams and or logos. Also, make sure all the TVs and background music are off. No music in the videos. Please, no music in the videos. Last but not least, make sure to get your models to sign the release forms, and good luck. First haircut I want to see you guys do is a bald fade. So let's get to it. Now I'm switching over to my Wahl cordless magic clips with my number 2 guard on, closing my lever to make it a true 2. I close my lever, making it a true 0 to continue the blend to remove any lines of demarcation. Now with my number 1 guard on, closing my lever to continue to remove any lines of demarcation. Now opening up the lever to a 1.5. Now with my 1.5 guard, I'll open and close my lever in this area right here, right at the crown, to continue the blend. Now using my number 1 guard again, opening and closing my lever, continuing the blend. Now with just my half guard. Now I'll continue with just my blade. Now we'll do the same motions in the back area, what I call section 2. Closing my lever to make sure it's a true 0 to remove any lines of demarcation. Now with my number 1 guard on, closing my lever. Opening my lever, continuing the blend. Now with my 1.5 guard, closing my lever. Once I get closer to the crown, you'll see me starting to open and close my lever to make sure the blend is nice and precise. Now I'm going to grab my number 1 guard again, open and close my lever, and try and remove any lines of demarcation. Now I'm going to continue that same process, but with my half guard, opening and closing my lever to make the blend as flawless as possible. Now with just my blade, continuing the same process. Now let's move on to the last and final section. Alright guys, continuing the same process. Section 3. Close my lever on my cordless magic clips. Small, C-like motion, keeping the blade on the scalp the entire time. Now opening up my lever to a half. Now putting my number 1 guard on, closing my lever. Opening up my lever to a 1.5. Now with my 1.5 guard, opening and closing my lever right at the crown of the head. Now to buff out any lines of demarcation, I'll be using my number 1 guard and working my way down to my half and just my blade as well. With just my blade now. Now let's get towards the edge up. Alright, now for the edge up, I'm going to be using my Wahl 5-star detailers. Making sure I stand on the right side to get the line as even as possible. Once again, when doing the side of the edge up, I take full advantage of my 5-star T-wide blade. Next haircut is going to be the creative cut. This is where we want to see your creativity. Use any design you'd like. Use your creativity. Let's get to it. Alright guys, I'm going to start with the Wahl Detailer 5-star senior and do a design right here, and then we'll get into the fade. Now that I've got the design lightly etched in, I'll come back and make it real prominent, still using my Wahl detailers. Now that we've got the design etched in, I'll start getting my guide to do a bald fade. With my cordless magic clips, I'll start the blend, keeping it below the design to make sure my design is still real nice and prominent. Grabbing my number 1 guard, continuing the blend. Now with my half guard. From here to here, using my cordless magic clips, closing my lever, making it a true 0. Now opening up to a half. Grabbing my number 1 guard, closing my lever, and then I'll open it to a 1.5. Now with my 1.5 guard, opening and closing my lever. Coming back with just my half guard. Continuing with my Wahl cordless magic clips to remove any lines of demarcation. Lever closed, making it a true 0. Open, making it a half. Now my number 1 guard, closed lever. Now opening it to a 1.5. Now with my 1.5 guard, I'll open and close my lever. Continuing to buff out any lines with my number 1 guard, and then work down to my half and just my blade as well. Now with just my blade. Now let's work on the edge up. Starting in the center, right above the nose, then working to the left since I'm standing on the left side. Now I'll be removing the bulk from the bottom of the head. And to give the finishing touch, to make sure my edge up is nice and precise, I'll be using my Wahl Finale. Alright guys, now here's where you get the option. Here's where you get to choose to do a textured crop or a pompadour. It's your option, either or. I'm going to show you both. Your option, only one is needed. Now I'm going to show you both, and we're going to start with the textured crop. I'm going to start using my cordless Sterling 4 with my number 1 guard on, close my lever to get my guide around the perimeter of the head. Still with my cordless Sterling 4s, I'm going to use my number 2 guard, close my lever, and continue the blend, staying in just this area right here. I'm going to grab my 1.5 guard, close my lever, and I'm actually going to clipper over comb that area to get a nice, precise blend. Now I'll work my way back down in this area to remove any lines of demarcation, still with my 1.5 guard. Now working with just my number 1 guard, opening and closing my lever. Grabbing my number 2 guard, continuing the blend right around the crown. Now with my number 3 guard. Working back and forth with my number 2 and 3. Continuing the blend in my next section with my cordless Sterling 4s and my number 1.5 guard on. Now opening up my lever on my 1.5 to make it a number 2. Now with my number 2 guard on, opening and closing my lever to continue the blend. Now switching over to my cordless magic clips with my number 1 guard to perfect the blend. Opening and closing my lever. Continuing the blend on our last and final section with my cordless Sterling 4s with my 1.5 guard on, closed lever, keeping the blade on the scalp the entire time, doing small C-like motions. Now I'll clipper over comb to continue this blend, keeping my 1.5 guard on. Now I'll grab my number 2 guard, continuing the same blend, same movement, same techniques. Now I'll be switching over to my cordless magic clips with my number 1.5 guard on. Alright guys, now we're going to trim the top of the hair to give it a nice, short, textured crop look. I'll be using my Wahl Big Mags for this. Now coming back with my cordless Sterling 4s, my number 1 guard on, we'll remove the bulk. Now with my Wahl Mag trimmers, I'll get the outline of the hairline. Now the nape area, I'm going to give it a bald taper using my Wahl detailers to start my guide. Now with my Wahl cordless magic clips, closed lever, making it a true 0, continue the blend. Alright guys, now we'll be doing the classic pompadour. Remember, you have an option for your third cut. You can do the textured crop or the classic pompadour. You don't need to do both, one or the other. Let's get started. Alright, using my cordless Sterling 4s, my number 1 guard on, we'll create the guideline. Now that we've got our guide in, I'll open up my lever to a 1.5 and continue the blend in this area right here. Now grabbing my number 2 guard on, continuing the blend. Opening it up to a 2.5. And now opening and closing in this area to make the blend as nice and precise as possible. Now I'll grab my 1.5 guard, clipper over comb this area to blend in the hair. Now let's move on to section 2. Now working in this area right here, still with my cordless Sterling 4s, 1.5 guard on, closed lever. Now I'm going to put my number 2 guard on, close my lever, continue the blend. I'll then open the lever and then open and close the lever to continue the blend. Now with my 1.5 guard back on, I'm going to clipper over comb this area to blend the hair nice and clean. Now let's move on to section 3. Now I'm going to clipper over comb this area, switching back to my 1.5 guard, opening and closing the lever. Now using my Wahl detailers, I'll outline the perimeter of his hair. Now I'm going to give a bald taper in the nape area, still continuing with my detailers to get my guide. Now with just my half guard. Now to remove this area, this line of demarcation, I'll open and close my lever. Now let's get to trimming the top. Alright, now we're going to trim the top with my Wahl Big Mags. So to get rid of this bulkiness here, I'll actually open up my lever to a half and use what I call a raking motion that also acts as thinning shears.